what Evan Evans likes. It could be very good news for him.
Of course, you got the 2 rounds there at Crandon and then the Borg-Warner Championship. So much to be seeing in our next few shows. Make sure you don't miss it. And in the interim, we're sure glad you were able to join us here in Bark River. I'm Greg Creamer, and for Larry Rice and for Ken Stout, thank you so much for joining us. Remember to check out speedtv.com, your online source for all things racing related. It's been great having you here in Bark River. We'll see you next time from Crandon. Take care, everybody. Everybody, and welcome to Michigan's Upper Peninsula, Bark River, to be specific, for the 9th round of the CORR Lucas Oil Pro Series, the Boss Snowplow Challenge. Great to have you with us. I'm Greg Creamer, joined by former national champion Larry Rice, Ken Stout covering all the action in the pit and paddock, and as always here, a huge crowd on hand, and why not? In the Pro 2 division, Larry, which is going to be the first group out, we have a points battle developing. Normally it's been just Scott Taylor taking it to everybody, but in the previous 8 rounds, even though he's finished no worse than second, he's been losing ground to Evan Evans, who's won 2 in a row and is really staging a comeback.
Evan Evans is having a great month. He always runs really well, but if it hadn't been for the last time out when he lost the power steering, he might have 3 in a row.
He was very fast up front when that happened. Here are the points in the after 8 rounds of the CORR Lucas Oil Pro Series and Pro 2. You can see that Vanden Heuvel certainly not out of the mix. Now here's a neat development. Steve Federico did a little work for Chris Hansen, and in return Chris said, I'd like you to fill in and drive my Pro 2 truck, so he'll be starting from the back of the pack here. Tell us a little bit about our Nissan race analysis and changing.
This is a land rush start. It starts up at the top 250 feet wide, then it narrows down to only 70 feet wide down in turn number 1. Turn number 1 is one of the hardest turn number 1s in all of CORR racing. You have to get through there really well, because once you get through there, even though this racetrack is really fast, it's sometimes very hard to pass. So it's important to get through turn 1 well.
And adding to the challenges of this already tough track, some changes have been made to it. For more on that, let's check in with Ken Stout.
One of the changes here at Bark River is the institution of 2 jumps here entering the back section of this course. These guys are carrying a lot of speed. The technology has advanced, horsepower has come along, and they were entering the left-hand sweeper incredibly fast. So they put a couple of jumps in the straightaway just before that sweeper to slow these guys down a little bit. This track is noted for using big-time horsepower. It will affect those motors to a little bit, and once again, it'll come back to setup.
And of course, with the loose surface on this track and now those jumps, the gear ratio, even more important, setup, huge. So we're on board with Carl Renizetter, the Lucas Oil Chevy, as he stages up. We are ready to go. Here's our Nissan Titan starting lineup. Of course, the top 8 are inverted, so that's how they stage in the opposite shuffle there. Brian Hinman, Josh Baldwin closest to the inside. Then it'll be Steve Barlow and Kevin Probst, who is on form. Nice to see Kevin back on it. Carl Renizetter and Dan Vanden Heuvel, remember him, 3rd in the points. Then Evan Evans on that hot streak, and Scott Taylor leading in the points. Outside of the inversion, we'll have Paul Seidler, Larry Gorley, and also Steve Federico, once again, filling in for Chris Hansen.
This is going to be very interesting. Everybody's going to do everything that they can to get through turn number 1 and get through there with the lead. Some guys are going to go to the bottom, other guys are going to go to the top, trying to get the advantage.
Boy, did Hinman nail the start from the inside. Timing impeccable, but look at Renizetter sweep the outside, and that is Taylor trying to go with him, and Taylor pushes way wide. Our points leader in trouble early, and Evan Evans jumps into the fray, and it looks like he's not too bad, about 5th, maybe 6th from the start, and that's a good spot to be starting. We know Evans can get to the front in a hurry, makes a move right there, looks like he gets underneath Barlow.
Well, Evans and Taylor took 2 completely different approaches to that turn number 1. Evans went right to the bottom, bumped and banged it a little bit, got through there pretty well. Taylor, on the other hand, went way to the outside. Looked like he was going to make up some ground, but ended up pushing the front end and lost a lot of ground.
Here's the battle up front. Hinman hanging on up there. Good run for Hinman off the start. The Redline Oil ATD Tranny Chevy. There is 3rd place, Kevin Probst. And Probst having himself a pretty good mid-season here in that FabTech Indicon truck. And there's the battle, and you can see Evans has indeed cleared Barlow, and now starting to move toward the front. That puts him in 5th, and he is coming after it. And we got a report that on those 2 new jumps back there, that he stood that thing on the tail and we'll see if we can get a replay of that. But look at this attack, and oh man!
He and Josh Baldwin got a little bit sideways. Evans did a great job not to just nail him, and he got hard on the brakes. A nice job by both those guys.
Baldwin, the Filger Manufacturing, number 86, obviously right in the hunt, sitting in that 4th spot. Evans backs off a little bit, starts to figure out another way to attack.
And you can see how difficult it is to pass here. This is a very, very fast racetrack, and even though Baldwin got sideways, Evans couldn't take advantage of him or he's going to run over him.
And Brian Hinman, what a story up front, is having an incredible run. Conversely, though, Scott Taylor, our points leader, buried back in the pack, appears to be struggling a little bit. Let's see if we can find out why. Let's check in with Kenny.
Well, it doesn't happen very often when Scotty Taylor has a bad day. Matter of fact, this might be the first one in the last 5 years, but rumor has it he's lost power steering. That's why he's struggling in the back of the field.
Well, that's sort of been an Achilles heel for a number of the teams and drivers this year. We talked about Evans having that problem a few rounds ago in the 6th round when he was leading, looking strong. These trucks, I mean, it takes so much to turn them, and those power steering units seem to be maybe a little problem.
Well, those tires are huge, and now you're getting a look at exactly what's going on here. Renazatter almost gets off the course, almost got way off in that big berm out there, trying to get around Hinman. Hinman, though, hanging right on, gets back by him, but when you see that mud on that screen, that's exactly what Carl Renazatter's seeing. He can't see squat with all that mud.
Well, he obviously went for the lead, and except for maybe getting up on that berm and near biking it up, he may have been able to make it, but Hinman driving the race of his certainly season. Once again, Renazatter swings way wide, trying the outside line, see if he can shut the door and make it. Keep your eyes to the left of this onboard and see if we see any sign of Hinman. Renazatter this time goes to the inside, made it.
Made the pass. He has a long way.
Look at Evans.
Long way around the outside. Now Evans goes to the outside. He goes outside, inside, tries to get under him, but now Evan Evans with a very nice move on Kevin Probst.
Not just on Probst, but he had to get by, obviously, Baldwin to get there. He had a shot there of Taylor still back in 9th. Here is your top 5, and Evan Evans in a couple of corners has gone from 5th to 3rd. Channel's coverage of the CORR Lucas Oil Pro Series is being brought to you by Nissan Shift Performance, the official truck of championship off-road racing, and by Lucas Oil, worldwide leader in heavy-duty and high-performance lubricants, and the official oil of championship off-road racing. Welcome back to Bark River, the Boss Snowplow Challenge. That, again, the 9th round in the CORR Lucas Oil Pro Series. And this right here now is a great battle, but it happens to be for 3rd. That's Hinman. Right behind him is Probst, and then you see the 86 of Baldwin. Here's the battle for the lead. Renazatter got there, and Evan Evans shot through and picked up that 2nd place, driving that Forest County Potawatomi Pro Cup Goodyear Chevy. But look at this. Oh, Hinman! That was really the first mistake I've seen him make. Just got it a little wrong there, and it stepped out, and he lost 2 spots.
Yeah, he just got out of the throttle a little bit, and the front end took off on him, and that was a big mistake. Let 2 guys get by him.
Well, one of the things we've talked about, them adding jumps to this track. Ooh, there's Dan Vandenheuvel out. That's 3rd in the points. But one of the things that's remained unchanged jump-wise is the Skyjacker long jump competition, the topic of our Precision Gear News and Notes.
Chris Hansen went 122 feet and then hit the wall. Next was Carl Renazatter, 142 feet. Jeff Kincaid, 150 feet in his Pro Light truck. And then Evan Evans, always exciting, 159 feet. But Scotty Taylor came up next, and he went 165 feet in his Skyjacker truck. And you see the landing. He did one heck of a job, and that's not an easy landing. There's a lot of suspension on these things, but still hard.
And they won a nice little bit of bling-bling, but let's be honest, that's all about bragging rights and big air, and that went to Scott Taylor as well. Here is your battle up front between Renazatter and Evans. Remember we told you about Evans standing it up? Well, here's the onboard. Watch this as he goes over these 2 jumps, Larry.
Well, we're still in the back part of the course right here, going up towards the hill where all the spectators sit. And now then, down this hill is the big, long, fast straightaway where the pits are located. He comes up on the first jump, Gets over it, okay, goes up the second one. Look at that. That thing was clear up on its tail, slammed down, and it took him a second to get back on the throttle to make sure everything was okay.
So that's the classic dirt, sky, sky, until that thing came down. Unbelievable. Oh, and look at this. Did he get a run this time? Got around the outside, set him up beautifully for the inside for the next turn. We have a new leader.
Evan Evans is just on fire. That was a terrific pass that he just made, and he's never been bashful, and he always stands on the gas, and that was a perfect example of it.
Wow, he set that up beautifully. We talked earlier about the mojo he's got going right now. He is back in the lead. Renesetter in second. Keep in mind, Taylor struggling, Van den Heuvel out. Big day for Evans, maybe. We are back at the 9th round of the CORR Lucas Oil Pro Series, the Boss Snowplow Challenge, and we are riding on board with Carl Renesetter, and you can see he's in second, but look at up front. You don't even see Evans. Evans is on a tear.
He has really been fast. Now that we see Renesetter getting a little bit of pressure now from Josh Baldwin.
Baldwin has closed it up, and with Baldwin comes the 99 of Kevin Probst once again. Meanwhile, there is Evan Evans, absolutely gone right now, that Forest County Potawatomi Chevy. He comes around, picks up the white flag, and once he got to the front, he opened it up in big leaps and bounds, and pun intended there, the way he's been driving has been phenomenal. But this battle for second is huge.
Yeah, Baldwin, Probst, and Renesetter. Renesetter leading those two guys, but he's really getting a lot of pressure. He got around him early in the race, but it looks like as the race is worn on, Baldwin gets a little bit sideways right there. Probst is going to probably get by him heading down this straightaway, and he does.
They hit! Baldwin goes over!
Big time over as Probst went by. He tried to stay on the gas, regained the position. When he did, he made a little contact with Probst, and then over the jump, and when he landed, there was just no way that thing was going to stay on its wheels.
A little bit further back in the pack, Brian Hinman sits in 5th, Barlow, the Red Bull truck, in 6th. And Hinman has driven a great race, but has just been picked off a little bit here by a few of the guys, and Barlow trying to do it as well. And let's keep in mind one more time, as Evans continues to look awfully strong here, Taylor struggling with that power steering problem well back, Van den Heuvel out. So as he comes around, this is going to be a 3rd straight win, but more importantly, as he comes around and takes the checker, there's Taylor in front of him. There's your reference point. This points gap is going to shrink significantly right now, and Evan Evans, what, as you said, Larry, what a mid-season role he has been on. But first of all, let's go back, take a look at that incident between Kevin Probst and Josh Baldwin.
Well, Josh Baldwin makes a mistake. He tries to regain, gets up over that jump, and in midair runs into Kevin Probst. Probst gets hard on the brake, and it just let him go on over, and you can see he went over pretty doggone hard.
He did indeed, and Ken Stout, our man on the scene, has already caught up with Josh Baldwin.
First things first, man, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Talk to me about what happened.
Oh, I slid out, and I guess Probst and I got into it a little bit.
Well, that's one perspective. They definitely got into it a little bit. When we come back, we're going to be getting into it a little bit at our FabTech Winners Circle. The 9th round of Pro 2 for the CORR Lucas Oil Pro Series complete. Here are the results. Evans with that 3rd straight win. Renesetter, Probst, Gorley, Hinman. Big story, Taylor in 8th, and outside of the top 10, Vanden Heuvel. The points are going to take a big swing. But let's get down to our Fab Tech winner circle as Ken Stout is standing by with somebody who's always a crowd favorite.
There is one name that is synonymous with Bark River and off-road racing, and you're looking at him. Evan Evans is by far the winningest driver here in CORR history at Bark River. He'll now take that total to 8. This place is just made for you, man.
I tell you what, us Evanses, I got to carry out that legacy, that name. My dad was fast here. The Evanses, we like fast tracks. We all the little dogs, they can get off the porch when we come to a fast track because I got a Leon built motor with this Forest County Potawatomi Goodyear Chevy truck. There isn't anything out here that can beat it. I love this track. Bark River's for me.
This thing was absolutely thumping. I mean, you passed some of the toughest trucks in the field. Not only that, boy, talk about momentum coming out of Topeka and then picking right up where you left off.
To come here with 2 wins behind me at Kansas and to come here and win again, it just feels so great. I hope we can keep the momentum going for the rest of the season. I tell you what, I worked on these shocks right before this race. I wasn't happy at practice. The truck is fast, but I still think I can get a little more out of it. And off that second jump over there in front of the hot pits, I stood this truck straight up in the air like this, and I thought I was going to land on the back bumper and maybe even cartwheel the thing, but this truck, it pulled it off, and we didn't make that mistake again, and we ran her hard all the way to the finish line. I just want to tell everybody, if you work hard and you love something and you want it bad enough and you never give up, you can accomplish anything.
He's living proof of that.
Without a doubt. Let's take a look now at the points after 9 of 14 rounds. Remember the difference coming in here was 32. Guess what? Down to 20. And Renesetter has gone by Vanden Heuvel, as has Probst. Vanden Heuvel falling to 5th. So that points championship definitely snugging up a bit. Here's 6th through 10th in the points, and but the focus really is on the front of things right now. Coming out, it is going to be our biggest field of the day. This is going to be Pro Light. That's going to be coming at you here, and we're going to be riding, as we always do, on board with Chad Horde, the Boss Snowplows truck, fittingly enough, here at the Boss Snowplows Challenge. And Horde has been a factor, but in all honesty, the battle has been up front with Kyle LeDuc, that incredible start to the season, as we look at the points after 8 of 14 rounds, then Huseman and Horde. But you'll notice that Fords have been very, very strong indeed, and that's one of the situations that has been addressed here as we take a look at Kyle LeDuc. There have been some changes made in terms of the rule structure, and for more on that, let's go inside CORR with Ken Stout.
Hey guys, the big news coming in around number 9 is a rule change in Pro Light. The Fords have dominated. If you take a look at the last 12 races, they've won 11 of them, including a 7-race win streak that started that streak off. Now, what are the rule changes? Well, the Nissans now are allowed a 42mm Venturi, formerly just a 40. But they've also played with weight. The Fords now essentially have to weigh 100 pounds more than they previously did. A minimum weight of 2,900 pounds now, formerly 2,800 pounds, but they've also knocked 50 pounds off of everybody else. Now the minimum weight for this class, if you're 2,500 cc's or less, is 2,750 pounds, essentially creating a 150-pound difference basically to Kyle LeDuc and Rick Huseman. As you can take a look at Kyle LeDuc's truck, you can see they've added a weight bar in here. They really only had to put about 40 or 50 pounds of weight inside of this truck, but it will change a lot. They're trying to create parity inside of this class by adding a little bit of weight to the trucks that have dominated.
We got to make a few changes to the truck. We got to raise the truck and change the shocks. Make sure its handling's still the same. And we'll still give them hell. We'll see what, all it does is make us want to try harder and, go out there and win even harder.
Well, we saw that kind of determination from Scott Taylor, didn't we, when they made that change in his class? Well, we're seeing the same here. There's LeDuc and there's Huseman, and look at that. There is a great look at that turn 1, wide into the bottom.
Well, we'll see how they get off the start. Let's see if the weight hurts them any. It shouldn't a whole lot.
Well, let's take a look at our Nissan Frontier start grid. Again, you've got the inversion. You can see them stagger back as we take a look, and we're obviously going to be focused in particular as we get to the outside of the inversion, spots 7 and 8. There they are, Rick Huseman and Kyle LeDuc. But we've got a number of trucks outside of the inversion. Pagels, Oberg, Zosha, Ponder, Eller, Hintz, and you'll notice Todd LeDuc. Now, he was going to sub earlier in the season when Larry Gorley was hurt in Pro 2 with his ribs. Well, Todd's going to make his run here. He's the brother, of course, of Kyle. As always, going to get some great onboard shots from Art Schmidt, the Nismo Nissan, and they're going to be looking after, I think this is going to be a fascinating race on this track. Biggest field, and here we go! And they are heading down toward the bottleneck. And look at Jeff Kincaid, that inside starting line, that Potawatomi Toyota. He goes right to the lead. Nice start by Federico, who started fourth from that inside slot to the second. We hop on board with Chad Horton, back in the pack just a little bit, and there is LeDuc. And LeDuc, of course, now quickly working his way, trying to work his way up to the front.
Yeah, Huseman got a good start, too. He's in third already, so he got a terrific start from way back there in the back. And Kyle LeDuc has a little bit more work for him to come up to the front.
There's Kincaid leading away, Federico, Huseman, the rest of the pack. And boy, there's a good shot. Gives you an idea of the speed that they carry through some of the turns here. That little rise and climb. And now the drop down on board with Horton sitting in the 8th spot. And he is coming up on Candle. That's the black truck just to the left. And it looks like Horton may have taken that outside line and swept around, picked up a spot.
Yeah, it's farther around out there, but if you've got the speed entering the corner, which he did have, he just blew right on by Candle.
Now you can see it's dusting up, drying up just a little bit. You get different types of visibility problems. When it's thick and muddy, obviously that's one thing, but now you get that dust that just sort of hangs.
And you see LeDuc chasing Krieger down there in that Nissan, as Krieger hanging on so far, but LeDuc trying everything he can to get around him. Art Schmidt up in third spot in the other Nissan.
Interesting line that Kyle took there while Krieger just swept wide and kept feeding her throttle. It looked like LeDuc squared it a little bit, and he's got a little motocross background as well, I think, and it looked like he almost tried to do one of those berm turns and just rotate it, straight line it down. Didn't quite work, but interesting to watch a little bit of a different approach here as we hop on board with our Nismo Nissan, sitting right there and having that good run you were talking about. And by the way, the Nismo empire is stretching out a little bit. In the SCCA's World Challenge Series, Peter Cunningham is driving a Nismo-sponsored Nissan in that series and doing very well. So Nismo very involved in a variety of different motorsports right now.
And Art Schmidt right now has lost a spot as Huseman has gotten around him into third and he's running fourth. Krieger, meanwhile, still hanging on to his spot as LeDuc hasn't been able to do anything with him.
Again, big implications points-wise here coming in. Huseman up front right now of LeDuc. And whoa!
Krieger almost nosedived that thing in there. That was a very hard landing. Lucky that he didn't get upside down right there. They got those skid plates. You can see the skid plate on the front of the truck. That saved him from going over right there.
And it also seemingly motivated LeDuc a little bit. Stuck the nose down the inside, but Krieger covered that beautifully. And boy, protected the inside nicely here. LeDuc again tries the counterpunch move. Not happening.
Now he tried to go inside outside, but just didn't work. Now he's going to go to the outside. If he can get beside him, he'll have the. No, he's not going to do it. Not even going to come close. Oh,
is that Schmidt?
Art Schmidt went off the course through that section. He pulled back on, but he lost at least 1 or 2 spots. At least one.
Well, he's trying to keep it at 1-2 because LeDuc's off to his right. That's Krieger right in front. And he's down to the inside. And, of course, I'm sure Krieger wouldn't mind it if he had a teammate now as a buffer. But Schmidt's going to be frustrated that he lost that spot. But he does and must hold on to fifth.
He certainly does. And he's probably a little bit upset with himself right now, trying to get back at his teammate, trying to get that position back. But Krieger running a very nice race. He was able to hold off LeDuc for a couple of laps there. And right now he's holding off his teammate.
So Kincaid leads it with Federico having a great run in second, Huseman, Krieger, and Schmidt. welcome to our latest potential off-road racer, Caitlin Elizabeth O'Donnell, born August 3rd, 6 pounds, 19 inches long. You remember that Lee O'Donnell, a proud dad, was not able to go to Topeka because of the impending birth. Well, she has arrived, she's happy, she's healthy, everyone's doing great. Lee has informed us that he will be back at Crandon, so that is the good news indeed. Meanwhile, let's get back to some great racing here, and that is the Boss Snowplows truck, the Nissan of Chad Horde, and he is being hounded by the Skyjacker Ford of Kyle LeDuc. And